How's it going, Football Daily family? Bit of nostalgia today. We are back in the pub whilst we sort out our new studio. So, thankfully, the drinks are here, the boys are here, and so are your questions. The first one comes from CQ Papazzo. He says, Mourinho and Pogba, whose fault is it that Pogba has underwhelmed this season? Who wants to kick us off with some thoughts?
A hot take.
It is.
It's happening again this week. It's me for our
That's
first
coming
question.
later in the show, so stay tuned for that. But Pogba,
Well, this has been kind of growing, this story, right? So, like, Pogba was a regular in the team. Pogba was playing 90 minutes every game. He played 90 minutes in 9 consecutive games before those 2 losses against Tottenham and Newcastle.
Yeah.
And he went off around 60, 65 minutes in both of those. Then he was dropped for the FA Cup match against Huddersfield, which United won. Then he was dropped for the match against Sevilla in the Champions League. He did come on at half-time. But
he was ill against Huddersfield, wasn't he?
Yeah. So that's been kind of huge. But Mourinho has also said his form's dropped off a bit.
Yeah.
And also he's been hyping up Scott McTominay in a way that is hard not to.
I actually love how
read as an
he
insult.
exclusively calls Scott McTominay the kid. He won't call him anything other than the kid.
Something Fergie would have
I
done.
know, that's such a
Fergie used to say like 29-year-olds were like kids. He's a good kid.
He's a good kid.
It's a shame he'll end up at Villa in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Having been bought by Steve Bruce for £7.5 million.
Now, he'll almost definitely play for
player.
Leicester at some stage in his career. Almost every Manchester United academy youngster
true, actually.
We'll sell him to
ends up
Chelsea
at Leicester
for 30.
at some stage.
Yeah, but he said about Scott McTominay, he was like, oh, he's really humble, he's got no tattoos, he's got a normal haircut, like all this shit. And it's hard not to read that as a dig at Pogba.
Yeah, it is. You're
But
right.
when you look at Pogba's stats this season, I don't know, they look pretty damn good to me. Like, I struggle to see, I don't think he's the problem with Man United.
Okay, so you're putting it at Mourinho's feet.
I think Pogba has not been as good this season as he was, say, 2 years ago at Juventus. But United's defence has been woeful this season. They've been rescued by De Gea. And in attack, it seems things have been chopped and changed. And now I feel like Sanchez is sort of stealing Pogba's role. But anyway, I mean, I've gone on and on. Like,
And
what do you guys
Martial's
think?
role on that left-hand side. Feels like his addition has been to the detriment of the side of late.
Oh,
Decent. I'm enjoying Manchester United's inconsistencies, Pato.
Me too.
fair play.
But if we're going to go with Mourinho, then surely it has to be the change of system, right? Back to the 4-2-3-1, so playing him in that 2-man midfield. Apparently this season, according to Who Scored, Manchester United have only played a 4-3-3 on 3 occasions in the league.
And even that's optimistic. I think even 2 of those we switched back to a 4-2-3-1 halfway through
and
the game.
I think we agreed at the tail end of last season that was the system that best suited Pogba, that let him
100%.
maraud forward, join the attacks. I think he was flanked by Fellaini, Herrera, obviously Matic at the start of this season, who were picking up the defensive work for him, because his defensive work has dropped off, no doubt about that. I think his tackles and interceptions are down from around 3 last season to 2 this season, which isn't great, and he was a defensive liability against Tottenham, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I can't even remember his performance. But like you said, 3
He made
goals,
John Joe Shelby look like Pirlo.
9 assists, and to be fair to Scott McTominay, he's come in and he is doing that. He is shielding the defence.
But arguably,
he's a solid presence there. But 3 goals and 9 assists is still incredible form for a central midfielder, and I think he's maybe suffering at the hands of being compared to other big players for other big clubs like Kevin De Bruyne.
That's true. It's a good point.
I'm inclined to blame maybe Mourinho. I feel like he did this with Eden Hazard, and it's a difficult road to go down. It's a difficult road to navigate well, isn't it? Pick on your star player to either try and cajole a better performance out of them, or it goes the other way and it fragments the dressing room.
Yeah, I kind of think there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Obviously, I've seen a few press conferences recently where Mourinho's kind of been bemoaning agents and families getting involved in on-the-field matters. That strikes me as the sort of thing that Mino would be all over, sort of sticking his oar in where he doesn't need to, saying Pogba's not happy, he needs to play over here, needs to play in this system. And I think that's the sort of thing that would a man like Mourinho
He doesn't
off.
respond well to being told what to do, does he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is not helping. But from a United fan's point of view, firstly, I really like Scott McTominay. So Scott McTominay, I think he's been there since under 9s. He's worked his way through the system. He's now not starting regular, but he's at least a squad regular.
You described him on UCL Review as a bit of a Darren Fletcher, didn't you?
Yeah,
which
would
every
be
club
not
needs.
working.
I'd be perfectly happy if Scott McTominay became a Darren Fletcher style rotation, consistent performer. Pretty good in big games, Fletcher always used to be, and you could always ask him to do 2 or 3 different roles for the team.
Remember a couple of bangers against Chelsea from Fletcher.
The one thing that's annoying me about the McTominay inclusion is that McTominay is now being included in a midfield 3. We saw it last night against Sevilla, where we started with Herrera, McTominay, and Matic. Pogba hasn't had that luxury at all. He's had that once this season.
Yeah.
If you're going to play the midfield 3, then play Pogba. If you're going to play the midfield 2, then play McTominay. Fine. If you don't believe that Pogba can play in a midfield 2, then slot McTominay in. But if you're going to play the 3, play Pogba on that left-hand side of it.
And we talk about Pogba's inclusion being to United's detriment, defensively speaking. United conceded 26 shots to Sevilla last night.
Yeah, he wasn't great last night, Pogba, when he came on though, from what I remember,
Well,
which isn't much.
Oh, he
It was
came on after
smashed.
20 minutes, didn't he?
It was
So
smashed.
they're conceding around 12 shots a game in the league, and that's like the 8th best in the league. Like Huddersfield, Watford concede fewer shots than that. By expected goals, you'd have expected them to concede about 1.3 goals a game. That's about 32 goals so far this season. 1.3 goals a game is league average, and this is a Mourinho side. Now, there are problems with personnel in defence, but I just find it hard to lay all that stuff at the door of one person. This reminds me of conversations that Arsenal fans have had, which is always like X player is the problem, Y player is the problem, and I feel like when you think that one midfielder is making your whole team fall apart, it's rarely the case. It's a structural issue.
I kind of agree, but I'm sure every Manchester United fan at home is like screaming at their television like I am and saying, why are we not playing Matic, Herrera, Pogba, Martial, Sanchez, Lukaku in a 4-3-3? Sanchez and
On the
Martial,
right. Sanchez has to be on the right.
Sanchez on the right, Martial on the left. Sanchez obviously drifting in a little bit more, Martial drifting in, Pogba with the freedom to get up and down the pitch, and Lukaku as the point man. That is such an obvious 4-3-3.
Yes.
It's by far our best team, but it's almost like that's so obvious that Mourinho's gone, you, I'm not playing it. I refuse to. It's almost like he's now picking players out of spite.
He's got some weird situation with Herrera, because Herrera, Van Gaal and Mourinho between them have turned Herrera from a kind of like nice little playmaker who drift around and play
into
past
a house.
Under Bielsa, at Bilbao.
into a Kante type. Like
He's a
like
full
he's a ball-winning player. Like he does,
And he does it effectively.
He does so much defensive
Yeah.
work, and you're like, what's the point of turning Herrera into that if you're not going to use that to free Pogba up in attack? Where clearly, judging by those goals and assist numbers that Hamill gave us, he's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, but I think the one concern Jose has about Herrera, and I think this season it's been more of a problem than it was last season. Last season I think he was superb. This season, spilled Coke all down himself.
Nightmare.
This season, his positional sense at times leaves a bit to be desired.
Sure.
Herrera has a tendency to fly out of the line to make the interception on the tackle. The ball is played 2 passes around him, and then Matic is extremely exposed. But then if you counterweight that with what does Pogba even offer defensively? With the two of them, at least you get Pogba going forward, you get a busy Herrera doing the kind of dirty work, and then you get Matic stabilising the midfield. That is such an obvious midfield 3.
So
it boggles the mind why he doesn't play it.
So we're now hearing rumours about Pogba going to Real Madrid or PSG as a result
Yeah,
of
I
all
don't
this,
see that.
of all
I
this
don't see
bullshit.
it, yeah.
Okay, but
We also heard rumours of Mourinho going to PSG. Right?
yeah, there are rumours about that. And given the way things are going with this Mourinho-Pogba thing, what do you think it would take for United to say, you know what, we're going to get rid of Mourinho? I don't think they're going to, but how bad does this season have to get?
That's pretty interesting, because with him just signing that new contract off the back of asking for more money, you would suspect that the hierarchy, Ed Woodward,
They've got long-term
are
faith.
going to fully back
They really
Jose
do.
Mourinho.
Yeah.
And it creates this interesting scenario, doesn't it, where if he's at loggerheads with your star prized asset, then it would appear that they'd be more willing to move him on than the
The one
manager.
thing
I
I
think
would
you give
say-
Mourinho total control, or it becomes
The one thing I would
very
say is
sticky.
Yeah,
after
he will
the
pick up
after the
a
Moyes shambles, I think United are chasing managers that are effectively. They're like Galactico managers. They're like the sort of manager that you know will come in and immediately have an impact. Now, I don't see I would love a Thomas Tuchel at United, but I don't think that will ever happen. That sort of manager that will come in
You're more
and be
likely to get an
trusted.
Ancelotti
You're
or
much more
someone.
like maybe
Yeah.
even he's actually spoken about it recently. Obviously, I think he said that United is the sort of club he could see himself at. But Diego Simeone is the sort of man where United would go, oh, you know what, he's a big name.
Sure.
He brings a calibre of player. He brings a certain sort of ethos. Whereas a Tuchel,
No,
slightly
stylistically,
underrated.
would you be happy with that?
Not
Because-
necessarily, but equally stylistically, you could argue that when Mourinho arrived, it's not a
I mean,
stylistic
you were scoring
Manchester United
goals
fit, is
for
it?
fun at the start of the season, but yeah, that has dried up a little bit. But I think if Jose Mourinho, we say he's a Galactico manager, but is he evolving to maintain pace with
No.
the top manager at the moment? And there is a very small group.
He's a little stagnant at the
isn't
moment,
there?
Jose.
But I'd say if Mourinho won a title with this Manchester United side, given the managerial sort of calibre current in the Premier League, I think it would be his greatest achievement to date. And I'm not sure if he would necessarily
He would love it.
establish a sort of a long-term success. I don't think he'll achieve dominance with a team again,
Yeah, I
given
mean-
the competition in the Premier League. So if he was
You're
to
right,
win,
probably.
I think he might get in and get out, sort of thing.
I think
I'm not
if
sure.
they
I
do,
think he was hoping to win a title in like his second or
Yeah.
third season, and then just like bounce.
I think
Like,
if they
leave it to
do
the next
have,
guy.
if they do end up at loggerheads and they do have the issue of one of them's got to go, personally, I think it'll end up being Pogba that will leave
Wow.
the club.
Heard it first, mate.
Mate, I don't think it's the right decision. I genuinely believe that Pogba's an incredible player, could potentially be the best midfielder in the world in the future, but he doesn't work under Jose Mourinho right now. That might change. We've seen Mourinho change recently and leave players isolated out in the cold and bring them back into the fold to great success. But if they go at loggerheads, Mourinho's going to win.
I do feel like this is a recoverable situation.
He's only been
yeah,
top
yeah.
two games.
It doesn't feel anywhere near as sort of sinister as the kind of Chelsea players
No way.
against Mourinho. Particularly after Cech left, the whole vibe changed in
It
Chelsea.
also
He
doesn't-
didn't want him to go. That was clearly wasn't his decision. But clearly, transfer-wise, everything has been Mourinho's decision.
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean,
he's
it
just
also
not happy with
doesn't
his
feel
form rather
like the
than personnel.
Mkhitaryan situation, where Mkhitaryan was dropped for an extended period of time, given a couple of games, didn't quite work, dropped again and then sold. It doesn't feel like that kind of situation. Personally, I think in about 2 or 3 games' time, Pogba will be back playing 90 minutes, but he'll be back in the midfield too. And that'll be another issue. But I don't think United are going to sell him. I think it's slightly overblown in the press because it sells a lot of papers and gets a lot of clicks, which is the reason we probably title this round Paul Pogba. But
Thank you.
if they go to loggerheads, I think Mourinho wins. What do you guys at home think
Poll.
about the Paul
Poll it.
Pogba situation? Let us know in the comments. And in the poll up there, if one of them has to go, who is going to win, Mourinho or Pogba? The next question was sent in on Twitter. If you want to be involved next week, send your tweets into whoever's writing it, usually Patrick Van Straten. This one comes from Stuart Best. He says, what piece of common, lazy punditry is the most wrong and annoys you the most?
Oh, we could be here
Great
for
question,
ages.
because there's some awful ones.
Just one line verbatim each then.
Go on then.
Oh,
no, I
well.
can't do one line on this. I'm so angry.
Go on, what's your worst one?
No, I mean,
No, I
like,
have-
as in just one isolated
Oh,
bit,
right, yeah.
bit of commentary that you off. I mean, I like Chris Sutton, ex-Celtic legend, that volley against Juventus.
Legend.
Yes, legend.
No.
Played in the
to-
European
to-
Cup final.
totally.
And he likes to rub people up the wrong way, which is a quality I admire in a person. It's why I get on so well with Van Straten. But every time Celtic play in a European match, big occasion, he starts with, what Celtic need to do here? They need to get on their front foot. On the front foot. What he's saying here is Celtic need to assert their dominance.
Yeah.
Celtic need to be better than the opposition here, which is like, I imagine that thought has come into Brendan Rodgers' head at some
Yeah.
point in the week before the game. What we need
Sure
to
they're
be,
trying to,
we
yeah.
need to be better here. So it's just absolute boo hockey. All right, Van Straten, I'm done.
Oh my God, there are so many, man.
So many.
Like, I hate the stuff that's just like, he should have done better.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
100%.
there obviously are circumstances where that's true, but like Alan Shearer, if you get the ball within 20 yards of goal, he will say, well, actually, he should score here. It's just like, what
do you mean?
What we need to do is get a compilation of every miss of Alan Shearer's from inside the box, and then we can just send it to him every time he
Should have
says something.
scored there.
Because it's ridiculous, you know, like people have this idea that like, oh, if you've got a header in the box, then you should score it. It's like,
Yeah.
headers are hard.
I can
man.
imagine you, full Rain Man at home watching Match of the Day, just like numbers streaming
Yeah, mate.
down in front of your,
It's like the
in
Matrix.
front of your vision, and just being like, actually, Alan, that was a
bollocks.
0.3 chance of scoring, you bold.
Well, it's just bollocks, you know, because then it just leads to kind of like criticising players for stuff they don't really deserve criticism for. But I mean, I also think the thing where people say that decisions even themselves out over the course of the season.
Yeah, that was going to be mine.
That's bullshit because
Decisions even themselves out.
Well, because it's a 38-game season, and people act like 38 games is so many that there's no randomness at all.
Yeah.
But it's really not. Like, I mean, random happens all the time. And I saw this after the Liverpool-Everton game. So there was one in the league and one in the cup. And I think one in the league, I don't know, there was a dodgy penalty, and then there was another dodgy penalty in the cup. And people said, well, you see, they even each other out. It's like, no, they don't. Like, getting into the next round of the FA Cup is not the equivalent to, say, missing out on a Champions League place because you were docked points by a dip ref. Like, look, Arsenal aren't going to be that close to the Champions League place, but last season they missed out by 1 point.
Yeah.
This season, that bullshit penalty against West Brom that cost them a win.
Yeah.
How is that getting evened out over the course of a season? That's just 2 points gone. You can't do anything about that. Stupid.
I think mine is when players hit the post and it's deemed unlucky.
Yeah.
Oh, he's really unlucky there.
If you shank it out for a throw, it's like, that's wasteful. But if you
even if you miss by that much,
that's
that's a bit wasteful. He should hit the target there. But if he hits the post, he's just so unlucky there.
I do like hitting.
It's like, that's a shot off target.
I do like shots that hit the woodwork though. They're
so do I. But then when some commentator goes, oh, he's so unlucky.
Like,
He's so unlucky.
It's a shot off target. He should have been better.
Maybe Coutinho
should have done better there.
Yeah, maybe Coutinho should stop shooting from 35 yards.
Yeah. But anyway.
No, he shouldn't.
Talking of lazy analysis and rubbish punditry, we looked at your rubbish opinions this week, or particularly Chris Hamill looked at your rubbish opinions in Hot Takes. So let's roll that VT.
Hot Takes. Get 'em hot. First hot take comes from @Peter Jackson. He said, France are the most influential nation of all time in terms of footballing culture. Could not disagree more. I believe in the 2016 Euros pre-tournament, actually, the French voted for rugby as their favourite sport. Ugh. Hard to look beyond England created the sport. Brazil, I think they, more than any country, define the beautiful game. And the Scottish, of course, took football.
No one cares.
Apostolis, F2. Has sent in, Sergio Ramos is not the best defender in the world. He's overrated because he scores a load of goals. I kind of agree. He's a bit of a head case, isn't he? Bit like Otamendi, raging bull, De Niro style, which I kind of respect. I like that he joins counter-attacks when his team are, when the points are in the balance. He looks a little bit like Val Kilmer in his prime, Heat, which I kind of dig as well. But I'll go with he's a little bit overrated, but also good. Lewis Laird thinks that Kieran Tierney is the best fullback in Britain. Agreed. Absolute Don. Played the most minutes in Europe's top leagues this season. Yes, I said top. I think the SPFL still scrapes the top 20. Captain his country and club at the age of 19. Thoroughbred. Darth JMZ has said Ryan Sessegnon should be England's first choice left wing back at the World Cup. He's had a good season, he's banged a few for Fulham, but let's not get carried away, Darth. Kieran Tierney is the best fullback in Britain. Agreed. Craven Cottage, more like Crazy Cottage. Sam WHUFC 13 has said, I assume he's a West Ham fan as well, so his opinion's already invalid. Anyway, he said, without Pochettino, Tottenham would be an average side. Kane is their only world-class player. So I'm not sure if we're attributing their current success to Kane or Pochettino, but yes, they would be worse off without a very good manager. I agree, but a lot of talent in that side that we could probably consider world-class. Toby Alderweireld, Hugo Lloris, Dele Alli, Big Vic, not so much. Dembele on his day, for sure. Christian Eriksen, what a creator he is. I think it's just sour grapes, mate, because your club. @_JMV17 has said, Romario is Brazil's best ever striker, better than Pele, Ronaldo, and all the others. He was not better than Il Fenomeno. I don't think anyone was. I mean, probably better than Pele. Didn't really see much of Pele because he tended to play against farmers, didn't he? But Romario, Claims to have scored 1,000 goals as well, doesn't he? So, liar. Probably Brazil's maddest shagger though. Heard he put it about. At Reinventory has put forth Newcastle can compete for top 4 if new potential investors go at it with full force. He's cracking up behind the camera. I can't put it any better than that. Geordies, lovely people. Warm, welcoming, good senses of humour. Deluded.
The final question of the day comes from @MemeFrampton, and he says, which player has surprised you the most this season in a good or a bad way? Pato, who are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about Julian Weigl and actually Dortmund as a whole. I mean, I think it's not surprising they've taken a bit of a step back after the departure of Tuchel because he's the kind of coach like a Pochettino who gets more out of the team than you expect. Pulisic has taken a step back, to be sure, which is probably partly down as well to like not having guys like Aubameyang and Dembele who limit the number of defenders who can just focus on you. People know that he's the hub of the side now. So Royce coming back may help him. But Weigl was
What's gone on? Because I thought United were linked with him in the summer quite heavily.
He's still good. He's still got plenty of potential. I mean, but people were talking about him as like the new Busquets, and people were talking about him as a Barcelona signing, and he does not look like that right now. He's still very young, very, very young, but his tackles and interception numbers are down. When you watch teams play against Dortmund, they're able to get through the centre of the park so much more easily than they were under Tuchel. His passing, he's less involved in the game. Like under Tuchel, I think he was making like 65 pass a game. Now it's like 48. I know that sounds like a little bit kind of like small and like
for a central midfielder, that's a big drop.
Well, he's the guy who's meant to keep your side ticking. That's a massive gap between where he was and where
players
he is now.
who sort of play in that position. I mean, he's been compared to Verratti in the past, Thiago Motta, Rabiot, those sort of players. They're completing 80, 90 passes a game, aren't they?
Even bad versions of that. You know, like I think Granit Xhaka has had a terrible season, but the guy still completes 70, 80 passes a game. He gets on the ball a lot. And when you have your central midfielder not getting on the ball, then you have a real issue with the way you build play. Like, I don't know. I think he probably will still get a good move and turn into something. But I think Dortmund are now going to get less money for him than they would have got like 2 years ago, and it's not like they've got great production out of him in the meantime. So I think it's been a little bit of a disappointing season for him. But I've also been a little bit disappointed with Dortmund as a whole this season. I think getting rid of Tuchel was bad. I think signing Boss was bad. I think getting in Sturger was bad. I think letting Aubameyang go in January is not great. So I don't know. I'm
16 points behind Munich is incredible given that their first 10 games. It's just been a catastrophic nosedive.
I mean, Bayern have been staggering though since Heinkes came back. The guy's a wizard. He's so good.
Who are you going for, Hamster? Any other Dortmund,
the
Bayern
rigidity
boys?
of his hair,
like
David Lynch hair.
It's so straw-like.
It's like a razor head.
Lego hair.
It's so good. Elite.
That guy. I mean, Bonucci springs to mind because AC Milan have been so poor. I mean, they're currently unbeaten in around 8 games, I think, under Gattuso. They've been sort of winning games by the odd goal, getting a few draws here and there. But he was bought into a lot of fanfare, wasn't he, for a very reasonable price. Around £35 million, wasn't it, or euros? Can't remember.
People thought that was the signing of the summer.
Yeah, and in many ways it was. It looked like a safe bet, but he's actually being outperformed by and large by Romagnoli. A lot of AC Milan fans have been really happy with his development this season. They're obviously not playing the same sort of system, AC Milan, as Juventus. He was very comfortable in that back three, wasn't he? And I mean, his output has suffered as a result. I think he's completing 20 fewer passes a game. He was obviously that's what he was in that Juventus defence for, wasn't it? His ability to pick out a long ball and his ability to link defence to the midfield. I think his tackles interception numbers have dropped from around 4 to 2.5.
Do you think that was actually genius by Juventus, or they've just got lucky?
I mean,
Juventus
could afford to lose him. They had Benatia on the bench, didn't they?
Yeah.
He was a very able deputy. They've got Rugani coming through, who was absolutely classy at the weekend.
Kept Chiellini.
They own Caldara as well, don't they?
Yeah, From Atalanta?
Yeah,
I think they're
Matteo
getting
Caldara.
him in the summer.
Though you could argue as well, though, that like Juve, if they had Bonucci, maybe they wouldn't be a point behind Napoli. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
This might prove to be more costly to Juventus.
But apparently it's for personal reasons, which is kind of why it slipped under the radar a little bit. But AC Milan now apparently broke, so
Not
maybe
again,
so Milan.
Bonucci's
Again.
maybe the amount of long balls Bonucci does per night isn't the biggest issue at the San Siro. But on a slightly more positive note, you have Otamendi, Ederson at Manchester City, Sergio Roberto is really kind of claimed that right back position, hasn't he, in the face of competition from Nelson Semedo, who they bought in for £30 million. Sergio Roberto, I think, is a lovely footballer, very aesthetically pleasing to watch. Although I think Semedo, very good player also. There is other players. Under from Roma is in the ascendancy at the moment, isn't he? Scoring some crucial goals for Eusebio De Francesco's side. And they're desperately short of goals at the minute, as Eden Dzeko, I was going to say Eden Hazard, as Eden Dzeko's form's dropped off. The Lyon front three, Mariano, Depay, Fekir, all sort of playing really well. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I was also going to say Sergio Roberto. I think Sergio Roberto's had a fantastic... maybe Ben Davis. Ben Davis, I think, in the face of Danny Rose being dropped at the start of the season and falling out of Pochettino quite publicly, giving that interview saying that he wants to leave, all that kind of stuff. I think Ben Davis has filled his shoes brilliantly. Whenever I watch Ben Davis, he never puts a foot wrong. The only poor game I've seen him had this season so far was against Juventus. In other games...
Even in that game, putting some dangerous passes into the box.
In other games, he almost occupies the entire left flank by himself at times.
Even though he's not fast at all.
Yeah. Like, he never seems positionally out of position, if that makes sense. It's a bit mad.
He's got an Azpilicueta quality.
Yeah, whenever they need him to be in the left wing position, he's always there in the right moment where the ball can be circulated across the midfield into his feet and he puts the ball into Harry Kane. But equally, defensively, he's always the guy that is the front line of defence for the 2 or 3 centre halves, whatever they're playing.
I think it's just because they have such a great relationship, don't they? That 5 at Tottenham's base, which allows the fullbacks to act as midfielders.
You can almost I would actually say Ben Davis is almost like a left midfielder, not a left winger, not a left back. He's not even really a wing back. He's, like you say, he's not got the pace of a wing back to get on the outside.
His average
more
position is like above Eric Dyer.
Yeah, and I think Eriksen's the only Spurs player to create more chances.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And also in that Tottenham team, I think Davinson Sanchez, when he first arrived, I was a little bit sceptical as to whether he would hit the ground running in the way Tottenham needed a defender to, but he's smashed all expectations in my opinion. Completely filled the void of Toby Alderweireld. Well, he's been injured for what now? 4 months? That is a massive loss. He's arguably the best centre-back in the league, and it's not as if Tottenham have gone right off the radar with his absence. And Davinson Sanchez, first season in the Premier League, still very young. He's so athletic. He's so
good in the one-on-one.
Yeah, whenever the ball gets put in behind him, he is so fast that he seems to be able to recover any situation. Even
Sanchez.
Yeah, Davinson Sanchez. I remember he did it for Ajax as well in the Europa League final. There was one moment when Jesse Lingard was about 30 foot clear of him, running through in a one-on-one situation. And within about 10 strides, Davinson Sanchez was throwing him away from the ball.
Like a gazelle. He's got shades of Eric Bailly about him, hasn't he? In that here's a young guy who's been bought in for 30 million, he's been thrown in at the deep end, and he's shown a lot of maturity, a lot of poise.
I think he's a lot better on the ball than Eric Bailly, though. I think Eric Bailly can be quite rash at times. I kind of feel like he's a little bit calmer. Maybe that's the Ajax.
Coming from
Maybe
Ajax,
that's
you expect.
Though I would say Bailly was really good in a 4 at the back, whereas Sanchez, I think Sanchez has been good in 4 at the back, but
better
I think
in a 3
when they were in that 3, they
shielded,
looked absolutely impenetrable.
Yeah.
But when you think he's how old is he? 21, 22?
22, I think.
Like
now.
Vertonghen, when he first arrived at Spurs, was a little bit ropey. And now is certainly one of the best centre backs in the league. And so I don't know, Sanchez, you do wonder how good he can get.
Is there any other names we could put forward
Leroy
there?
Sané,
Carlson as well.
He was off like a shot.
Leroy
wasn't he, at the start of the
Sané,
season. Raheem Sterling, I don't think any of us kind of expected his numbers to be as good. I mean, maybe an improvement, but not as good.
Even Mo Salah. Like Mo Salah, I think we all expected him to get maybe 15 goals, a bunch of assists. He was playing as much more of an all-round kind of like creative wide player at Roma. Now he's basically a striker. He's playing as a striker. He's playing like Griezmann.
Yeah, he is playing
that
like
transition from like that kind of wide creator into a genuine like inside forward. It's been surely no one expected him to get 22 goals.
Brilliant
It's
by Klopp.
mental.
Yeah, 22 goals in the league as well. He's going to contribute to like 40 goals this season.
He's already got 30.
Yeah, it's an
Absolutely nuts.
absolute madness. But you guys at home, who has been your surprise package this season? Is it a player? Is it a team? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. That's the end of Sunday Vibes. If you want to be involved next weekend, get your comments and your questions in below with the hashtag Sunday Vibes. Gentlemen, what else is happening on Football Daily?
On Football Daily, don't know, mate. Don't care about it.
What's happening on 90 plus
90 plus 1 Facts. We've got a new show coming out on 90 plus 1 Facts, which is going to be all about your comments. But before that, we've got a Mo Salah 90 plus 1, just to give you a little hit of what everyone wants at the moment. Make sure that you're going over to 90 plus 1. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're liking the videos. And give Kieran your suggestions of what you want to see on the channel, because the channel's growing at the moment and we want to make it something for you. So we want your input.
Hamster?
We have Stat Wars as ever. Me versus Pato came out yesterday. McCubbin versus Zach was out midweek because we effed up last week's weekend content. Apologies for that. We're actually not on next week's Sunday Vibes. Thinking forward, you're going to be sharing it. It'll be 2 of the FD Mandem, and we're off filming a top secret vlog. They'll probably announce on Twitter after this, so not that secret. And subscribe to FDFC. There's only like 11,000 subs and we've got 1.2 million on here. What's that all about? Eh?
But anyway, see you later. Bye.
Ciao.